Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing the patch 14.7 notes. So if you have content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. There are a couple of things this patch, not a huge amount of changes, but like the overall system's changed towards supports, nothing down there. Damage is like a pretty big thing towards overall bot lane power and just generalistic support power. So Bloodsong, Imperial Mandate, Zaxax Realm Spike, and then changes to Karmanami Sona are all happening this patch. And that should shape up the support, change up the support role, move some stuff around. On top of this, we're seeing adjustments to Camille support, trying to push her more towards top lane, rather than just being a primary support option. And they are deleting Role Jungle this patch. It is only really seen in pro play, and they're no longer willing to support it, so it is being removed from the game. We're also seeing a couple of new cool skins, which is nice to see. Skarner VGU, which is probably the big highlight of this patch. This champion should be, it will go from someone who isn't very popular to something which is now going to be, you will see in most games, I imagine. It'll probably have an absurd ban rate. The champion looks very oppressive if it is strong on release. If it's not strong on release, I imagine they'll buff it back up. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this champion comes out. I imagine he'll be viable jungle, top, but maybe you see some Skarner support. There might be angles there. I don't believe so, but yeah, Skarner jungle, Skarner top. There should be some variety of builds. It'll be interesting to see what people cook up. And yeah, definitely give this champion a go. Shop.riotgames.com, depreciation. So this was the online shop. People didn't really use it that much. Most people just kind of interacted it through the client. So that is being removed. That makes sense. DX9 depreciation also being removed. So yep, that's happening. On the champion side of things, so Camille is going to be buffed for the most part. Her E is going to be obviously nerfed, but yeah, Q movement speed is going to be going up by 10 seconds, 10% at later ranks. Q cooldown is going to go from 96 to 95. The W damage is going to go from 5 to 7 to 6 to 8, and the E damage is going to be losing 20 at all ranks. Overall, this is a nerf towards support. Well, it's probably going to be power neutral towards support for like the changes generalistically, but power negative because they are nerfing Bloodsong quite heavily, which should be a decent amount of Camille's support power budget. So overall, be enough to support Camille this patch. However, top lane wise, I do believe this is a decent buff. Being able to have that 1% earlier on her W is a really nice change. On top of this, having some more power later on the Q ranks, you're looking at levels 7, 9 as being like really important on Camille for this ability. Yeah, should be some power positive changes here. Bit weaker on the E side of things, but you don't tend to be able to land as many hook shots as in the past on Camille top. So yeah, definitely a decent amount of power here. Might make Camille top a solid S tier option, honestly. Fiora has been a bit too strong in Elite more recently, which is why she's being nerfed. Her attack damage is going to go from 68 to 66. This originally was 68 to 65, but I believe that was probably too much. Fiora losing a decent amount of attack damage does hurt her ability to trade with her Q, being able to like Q auto, QE auto, like proccing her vitals, stuff like this. Losing damage within those trades can definitely hurt her ability to like combat against harder lane matchups. I would only really recommend playing Camille as a as a counter pick. Being able to play her against something like a Scion or something which you can kind of enable her split push value and like her turret sieging is very strong. Yeah, being able to open that up and just being able to have that kind of route for Fiora keeps her, like, it should like allow her to maintain her purpose, just not be too strong as generalistically as she was at the moment. Galio is going to have his passive buff by 5% AP. The W Shielded Durand is going to have its damage reduction go up from 20 to 40 to 20% to 45%, which is a very, very nice change. Just having the base value of that buffed helps this ability a lot. I believe they are also buffing the magic resist ratio on this from 4% to 8%. Which is also a very nice change. And the E Justice Punch is going to have some of its base damage returned, so 75 to 235 is now going to be 90 to 250. So a bunch of nice Galio changes here. I imagine this should put him in a lot better of a spot. Mid and support are obviously the ones to watch out for. However, I do want to see some top Galio. I imagine it would probably be viable with some of the more durable builds, which this these changes are definitely incentivizing. Like base value changes are very nice for these kind of builds. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Galio shapes up within the mid-meta, and whether we see a decent amount of him for MSI. Karma is going to have her W root duration increased earlier on into the game, so 1.4 to 2 is now 1.6 to 2. And the R Mantra Shield is going to go from 39 to 129 based on E and R ranks, to 45 to 153 based on R ranks. So, yeah, she's losing some value on the no, she's just gaining generalistic value because it now matches her R ranks rather than being based on the E points, which you tend to put points in later on as you tend to Q max first. So yeah, this should be a positive change towards Karma. She is definitely underperforming on support role at the moment though, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see where she kind of ends up after this. Kayn is massively underperforming within the jungle at the moment. This comes down to a lot, well, Blue Kayn is, this comes down to a lot of people still going Profane Hydra when it is no longer the optimal way to go on Blue Kayn. He is losing a decent amount of power through that. But they are still willing to buff him. He's still a bit weak on his other variations. So yeah, 80% bonus AD ratio is going to go to 85% bonus AD ratio, which is a nice change. I'm glad they didn't buff the ult, as the ult, like, the ult has limited counterplay when you can so easily activate it with something like Smite R. I mean, yeah, it's like a lot of guaranteed damage. Lux is going to have her passive AP ratio buffed from 25 to 30%. The Q AP ratio is going to go from 60% to 65%. So nice AP ratio buffs. This definitely incentivizes picking up a Rabadon's second item, I believe now. She might still go Storm Surge, of course, if she's snowballing. But yeah, I could definitely see Rabadon's being a better early pickup now that she does have really aggressive AP ratios across her kit. She has something like a 120% AP ratio on her R, so yeah, that is something to be aware of. Definitely helps Lux mid more than Lux support, as that is going to be able to pick up more AP, more AP items earlier on into the game. Nami is going to be changed, so her W damage is going to be decreased a bit from 60 to 220 to 60 to 200, losing 5% of the AP ratio. The healing is going to go from 55 to 135 to 55 to 155 with a 50% AP ratio increase. The bounce fall off is going to go from minus 15% to minus 10%, and the AP ratio on that is going to go from plus 7.5% per 100 AP to plus 10% per 100 AP. And the E Tidecaller's Blessing is going to go from 20 to 80 damage to 20 to 60 damage. So losing a lot of power inputting points in E. W max is always going to be the way to go now. I believe this should definitely help her supportive outputs, the healing. Losing a bit of damage does definitely hurt though, both on the E and the W. Hurts her ability to kind of like, not solo carry, but do a lot more of her damage, like a lot of the team's damage coming from her. Yeah, this should definitely hurt Nami. I imagine she'll lose a bit from this, even though the healing does help her. The main kind of purpose of playing a Nami is like as an enabler. The healing is kind of like an additional benefit a lot of the times. Yeah, it should definitely hurt Nami a significant amount, especially this. That will hurt like her combos with like Lucian, Karthus, Brand, stuff like this. Nasus is being buffed. He is underperforming. A lot of this does come down to Triforce just not being that great of an item at the moment. It probably needs a bit of a buff. But even then, they are buffing Nasus 11 to 21% to 12 to 24% on the lifesteal. This returns what I believe he got nerfed by back when they did the healing nerf towards a lot of champions. Patch 12.10, I want to say. And yeah, the Q Siphoning Strike is going to go from 30 to 110 to 40 120. This massively helps his ability to last hit on minions, especially 10, going up by 10 on the first value of this ability. Really does help his ability to secure minions, trade back against people, especially when like fleets up. Should definitely be a lot more positive and should put him in a much better spot. Olaf is getting buffs towards jungle, so Olaf's Q is going to gain 5 to 25 damage based on points of the ability. W Tough It Out is going to go from 4 seconds to 5 seconds duration. The mana cost is going to go up, however, 30 to 50. The E Reckless Swing Refund is going to go from 1 second per basic attack to 1 second per basic attack, increase to 2 seconds when hitting a monster. And the R Ragnarok is going to have its mana cost increased by 100. These, I actually reckon, are going to be nerfs towards top lane Olaf, even though a lot of people are worried that he's just going to be able to run in and poach a lot of jungle, as this does hurt his ability to, like, Olaf is a champion which can go in lane, and having 100 mana cost on R does hurt his ability to all in at level 6 in a lot of situations. So yeah, I imagine this will be enough to top lane Olaf. Should definitely be a lot of power towards jungle Olaf. However, this is the main thing here, being able to have E up more frequently, and Q honestly being a spammable ability, having like an additional 25 damage on this should do a lot to help his clear. I imagine he should be a decent jungler. Rek'Sai, obviously performing way too well within the top lane at the moment, being able to neutralize almost every matchup, and honestly just being able to win some in certain situations. Fury gain is going to go from 12.5 to 5, so big nerf here, and the heal is going to go from 12% to 20% to 10% to 20%. So this is a nerf early game, hurts your ability to sustain through early trades, but it maintains the same value later on into the game. Overall, yeah, this should be a big hit towards top lane Rek'Sai, especially being able to not being able to generate anywhere near as much. Fury should be a huge nerf towards her health regen. Overall, yeah, bit of a big nerf there. Rel is going to be basically removed from the jungle. She's losing all of her monster mods. However, she is gaining plus her mana resist growth is going to go from 1.85 to 2.05. So she's gaining a bit back there. I still imagine this will be a bit of enough towards support Rel, as like there is power in being able to help out with Drakes, help out with Barons, being able to like steal camps away in certain situations. Overall, yeah, I imagine this will do some level of compensation, but it should still be a bit of a nerf. Senna is going to be changed, so the soul drop chance on allied support minion kill is going to go from 28% to 8.4%, and the soul drop change on minion kill is going to go from 2.8% to 8.4%. Yeah, this is a big nerf towards, I think this is just a big nerf towards Senna generalistically. Like having a lot less soul chance from like other people, yeah, executing minions should definitely hurt her a bit. However, this going up does I give some power level to ADC Senna. So yeah, there is some like power shifting here. It'll be interesting to see where she kind of comes out after this. She's not performing anywhere near as well in the ADC role at the moment. She's still a decent pick, don't get me wrong. And honestly, if this ends up being like power positive, they might just end up nerfing her next patch. But yeah, this is just some power shifting around like where she gathers soul from, and not simply from support item. Smolder, of course, everyone's favorite champion, is gaining 2 armor, and the bonus physical damage based on crit chance is going to go up from 0 to 30% to 0 to 50% on the Q. Overall, this is a very small change. It's not going to do a huge amount to buff its win rate. Yeah, Sword got hit pretty heavily last patch. Definitely put him as like being the weakest ADC for this patch. Of course, his whole shtick is still going to be scaling. That isn't going to go anywhere, but yeah, he's gaining a bit more power early, like being able to live through lanes a bit more, and a bit more power with crit chance on the Q, definitely incentivizing more of those Essence or even the Rory builds. Sona is going to be gaining 10% damage on her passive power cord, so that's going to go from 40% to 50%. The Q, however, is going to be losing some damage through the AP ratio, going down by 10%. The W is going to be having its healing AP ratio go up from 15 to 30%. This is a very nice change, definitely helps her healing. And her movement speed on the E is going to go up from 10 to 14% to 10 to 18%, incentivizing possibly putting some points in this ability. I don't imagine people will put points in this ability. It's still not big enough of a change, I imagine. But yeah, definitely helps her scaling a lot. Gaining 4% movement speed is a lot in this game. The movement speed is a very valuable stat. Volibear is going to have his R cooldown increased, and crits only increase Volibear's attack damage instead of total ability damage, which is a big nerf towards Cinder Sky Volibear. So that item should be a bit worse on him. Alongside that, ult cooldown going to go from 140 to 100 to 160 to 110, almost returning it back to the same cooldown but which it was at before he got all of his buffs. So that was 160 to 120. Bit of a buff later on into the game, but yeah, overall, should be a decent amount of power loss towards jungle Volibear, bit less power loss towards top lane Volibear. And Sylas is going to have his minion and monster damage on the Q increased to 70% for monsters. Do I suddenly think this will make Sylas jungle a good pick? Probably not. We'll do a bit to probably increase his play rate, and maybe we do see Sylas jungle appear, but he needs a bit more, I imagine, to really like thrive within the jungle. He's still gonna struggle and be more incentivized to like spam gank as his main way of getting income. On the item side of things, so Zax's Realm Spike is going to be losing 10 damage flat, and it's going to be losing 1% of its target's max HP damage. The cooldown's going to go from 876 to 10 flat at all ranks. Bloodsong is going to have its spell AD ratio go from 150% to 100%. Imperial Mandate's damage is going to go from 12% to 10%, so a nerf towards Nami primarily here. And Static Shift's cost is going to go from 2,000 to 2,900, which is a big nerf towards rushing this item, which a lot of marksmen were as of this patch. World Atlas is now going to be changed, so excessive minion kill threshold 20 minions in 5 minutes to 20 minions divided by the number of support items on your team in 5 minutes. This update applies to support items. For additional clarity, this would be 10 minions over 5 minutes if 2 people on your team have World Atlas, then 7 minions over 5 minutes if 3 people. So a nerf if more people on your team have this item hurts the ability to buy multiple support items in game. A1 balance changes, so bunch of buffs, only buffs in fact, and 2 adjustments towards Cho'Gath and Taric. Quick play update, so they are doing some balance changes to that. Bunch of bug fix and quality of life changes, and then we have a couple of new skins. During Defender Rammus, Choo Choo Orn, Cheddar Chief Twitch, Zesty Dip Zac, and Toy Terror Cho'Gath, which are all very cool skins. Very nice, like April Fool's kind of thematic here. And yeah, those are the changes on the patch. Overall, it's not a huge patch. Definitely a bit more limited, and hopefully we'll see some big changes come through for MSI in 14.8. But yeah, mostly targeted towards support agency within the game, and then some jungle changes towards Olaf and Sylas. Yep. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.